Even evil has its origins. Here's your look at the Mattel Masters of the Universe Origins, Rise of Evil, Keldor, and Origins Kronis. Before Skeletor and Trapjaw, Keldor and Kronis terrorized Eternia in their quest for total domination. Before we get the review started for Keldor and Kronis, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figures actually stand. I'm going to take the tape measure, only really measure Keldor, because they're going to be essentially the same figure build. I'm going to take the tape measure right to the very top of Keldor's head. And according to the readouts, you're looking at both the figures, because of course they're using the same similar bodies, being 6.1 inches in height. We can switch that over to centimeters, revealing that the figures are 15.5 centimeters tall. I'd like to as well thank viewer Cornelius McGillicuddy, who took the time and sent the Rise of Evil set my way. Thank you very much, Cornelius. You'll see that Keldor has disappeared for the time being, and I've freed up just a little bit of space. We're going to first look at Origins Kronis, because I don't feel like he's as strong of a character, in just my own personal opinion, as Keldor, that we'll be looking at second. Why I've also freed up a little bit of space is also to do comparisons and bring in what he will eventually become, Trapjaw. There are things, of course, that are going to be staying the same, and don't worry, we'll do better, more extensive comparisons of the two figures in a second, but it's just more so to give you an idea of what Kronis starts as, before, of course, it becomes Trapjaw later on. Kronis comes included with one accessory. Let's have a look at that right now. It's a large blaster rifle. It has some nice sculpted molding to it. There seems to be a hole that you can see here just on the side, and then yet, while looking at the figure, there doesn't seem to be a place where this actually attaches to. I thought perhaps the hole was there specifically for a plan, like it was to, say, attach to the back of his torso, for example, but it doesn't. Instead, what you'll see on the back of the figure are the hooks for the Trapjaw pieces. In fact, actually, we can take Trapjaw right now, just detach the arm, and we'll bring that figure back in a second. But you just can take the Trapjaw pieces, and you can see they attach just to the back of his torso like that. So really, if you didn't want to have Trapjaw displayed, because when it comes to his figure, of course, you remember those pieces attached to the sides of his belt, you can instead take those parts, those extra parts that you're not using with the figure, and just simply attach it to the back of Kronis' torso. Let's put that to the side for the time being. You can take the blaster. Because of the way his hands are designed, you can see one hand is flat. So, of course, it's not going to be holding much of anything. So, really, you're going to be taking then this side of the hand, and you just take the blaster and slide it down, just like that. I'm happy to see that at least he came included with something, because we've sort of been spoiled that Trapjaw came with as many arm attachments as he did. You'd like to think at least, even if he doesn't have the mechanized arm, that you would have at least some sort of extension to his arm that you would imagine then later on would become, again, something that would attach to his cybernetic arm. So I'd like to see that they included some accessories. Go ahead and just detach that for the time being, put that to the side, and get a closer look at the figure. And for this, of course, yes, we're going to have to bring Trapjaw back in. You can see that there are things that have stayed the same, and then there's other things that have drastically changed. For the things that have stayed the same, like his body, his torso at least, and his lower legs seem to be identical. You're probably now looking at this thinking, well, wait a minute. That lower torso isn't the same. And actually it is. It's just the fact that he does have the skull and crossbones belt that goes across it. You could really detach this if you want to. And it's almost even an idea I'm considering, because you'll see as well, when it comes to Kronis' lower torso, the paint is so much cleaner here on his legs than the missed opportunity and almost flaked off paint that I had with the included Trapjaw that we first had a look at. So I might even, in fact, just detach it, because, of course, all these figures have removable component pieces. Just take this off. I'm going to go ahead and remove the belt later on, I feel. And I think I'm going to swap the two pieces out. Not only, again, is the paint a lot better, but one of my problems that plagued this initial Trapjaw was he had really loose legs, loose lower legs. Kronis doesn't have that problem so far. Probably would make some sense as well to put that back onto his body so we can see the rest of the figure. Just, again, snap that into place. You can mix and match the arms, the head, the lower half, and then you're good to go. Let's go ahead and do comparisons between the two. Now, while his torso and his lower legs and lower torso seem to be identical, even his footwear seems to be the same. What does change, actually, is his arms. For the one arm on this side, the one that he actually does have as a comparison, you'll see this little cybernetic implant at the top is missing here on Kronis's arm. He also has more of the traditional master's arm on the one side, so there is some changes that have been made there. And of course, I'm sure I don't have to describe it to you, but yes, there are some drastic changes when we look at this side of his body. He has gone with the missing now arm, and in place of that, he has this robotic arm instead. Even like these pieces here, the shoulder part that is strapped from the front here, it's actually just attached by a tab. You can detach that if you want to. But the side of it is also very different too. It's not the exact same piece. The head sculpts are, of course, very different as well. The helmets are the same, or at least you could imagine that they're roughly the same. And a little loop on the top as well that would run from the string, it's still there as well. Flip the figures around to the back so you can see the detailing on the backs of the figures. Again, not too much has really changed from one figure to the other, but you can really see how this would have been the start of what would be Trapjaw, and this is what we end up getting later on. Quickly looking, though, at the head sculpt, I shouldn't say quickly because I don't want to just rush straight through this. I say the price of admission, I think, for this box set is more Keldor than Kronis. I don't mind Kronis. I like the fact that we get to see Trapjaw, his origins, but I just don't think it's as interesting of a figure in my personal opinion. I like the grimaced face that they've given him, showing the teeth as well. The paint on the eyes is a little on the rough side, but that's not terrible. A little bit of a scuffing there along the top area as well of his helmet. The rest of the figure looks like it's just molded plastic. Things like his bracelets, for example, have been painted in. And of course, the thing that was the big issue on the other Trapjaw, these have also been painted in there as well. For the articulation here on Origins Kronis, I feel so compelled to call him Kronos. No, it's Kronis with an IS. The head rotates all the way around. You can hinge it up and down and back and forth this way. When it comes to his arms, you can bring them out at a 90-degree angle bend. You can also bring the arms all the way around. He has a single bend at the elbow. You can rotate the forearm where that hinge joint sits, and you can also rotate the hands all the way around, hinging those back and forth. Like with all the other Masters figures, straight swivel there on the waist. The legs split out. It's so nice to see tight joints on this figure, because I felt so disappointed with the other Trapjaw being so excessively loose. Even like his knee seems nice and tight. And of course, he does also have the foot articulation with an ankle pivot there as well. One last time, we can put down Origins Kronis, and we can bring in Trapjaw. I guess we probably would want to use the arm cannon there as well. Let's just put that back where we found it. There you go. And like I said, for a display piece, I probably wouldn't be so inclined to display Kronis standing right next to Trapjaw, because of course it's supposed to be the same character inhabiting the same universe. But I probably would end up just displaying him, I think, with Keldor, which of course is the figure we're going to have a look at next. So up next is Keldor, and of course we have a couple of Skeletors we can compare along with him, starting first with the original Origins Skeletor, and then shortly after that we also got ourselves the Battle Armor Skeletor. Again, there's not a lot that does change, at least from his torso. His legs, short of the fact that they've changed his footwear, is about the same as well. But he also has changed differently his arms, going away from the little fins that he's got on his forearms, favoring instead little gauntlet bracelets. Well, we'll get a closer look at that in a second. Keldor gets himself some pretty schwanky-looking accessories. Starting first, he comes included with the Havoc Staff. Now, the Havoc Staff, along with the Power Sword that we will be looking at shortly, seem to be going the same route, giving you a purple bottom base to it, and then as it moves further up the accessory, you can see it gives you a nice translucent lime green. It looks delicious looking at it. The Havoc Staff doesn't seem to be any different than the one that we had gotten before, but I tell you though, by adding the little bit of green like this to the top of it, it looks like it's glowing magic. Might be even something I would display with maybe the original Skeletor. Now this can actually fit into either one of his hands. Unlike the Kronos we looked at before that had just the open hand, Keldor at least benefits from having two gripping hands. So I'll show you guys that in a second. The other accessory he comes included with is Power Sword. Skeletor's version, at least, of the Power Sword. And again, you've got a translucency happening along the top here using that almost lime green. It's actually a little bit closer to the yellow here. It's happy to see, at least when looking at this, that the Power Sword has two sides. We don't actually have, yet, a full-sized double-sided power sword for Skeletor until we get the re-release Origins Skeletor and He-Man coming out, I think, later this year. It's going to give you a full double-sided sword. For the time being, this would, of course, be something you can display with the original Skeletor, or again, you can display along with Keldor. To put both the accessories actually into his hand, both of his accessories, take the sword, fit into the one grip, and then just in case that wasn't enough, you can then take the Havoc Staff and fit that into his other hand. So essentially, he could wield both. Or what you can also do, too, is when you move the cape out of the way, there is technically a little area, I suppose, you could slot the sword down. He doesn't really have a designated holster, but he has like a little area here on the back of his harness that I guess you could just slide the sword down to if you want. The other accessory that comes included with Keldor, just moving those to the side for the time being, is he also comes with a swappable head sculpt. This has me just as much excited as for the rest of the figure, but the very idea that he comes included with a Skeletor portrait like this, and I will almost even say one of the best Skeletor head sculpts that we've gotten from the Masters of the Universe Origins line so far. For starters, they've put in like ruby stones in the middles of his eyes. It doesn't have light piping necessarily, there's no way to illuminate that, but it does give him a really nice look to it as opposed to just simply painting it in place. The airbrushing of the green on the outside and then the more softer yellow on the inside really makes for one of, again, the best Skeletor head sculpts I think we've ever gotten from the Masters of the Universe Origins line so far. To swap out the head sculpts, you can take, first of all, let's look at the defaulted head sculpt here of Keldor. It's nice, again, to be able to see Skeletor in his origins, or at least looking the way he did in his original state. You can see he's got the pointed ears. Paint, sadly, though, really does plague Keldor's head. You can see a lot of it dripping down here from the top. It's not wet paint, but it certainly looked at one point like it may have been. I don't know if it's... I would just assume it's not supposed to be there. The head sculpt is good, just short of the fact that paint is a little disappointing. To change out the head sculpt, though, all you have to do is just take the head and remove it off the ball peg. It's a little harder to get access to because he's got longer hair there on the back. And then from there, you can go ahead and just replace it with the Skeletor head sculpt if you want to go this route. Now, being that he really does technically then just look like a regular Skeletor, there are a few things that they have changed differently. You could really use this head sculpt with this body, or really you could then use this head sculpt with another Skeletor if you want to. The other thing that you can also do too, I talked a little bit about this earlier, is that you can take the cape off completely also if you wanted to. Now really, this cape you could also use with another Skeletor too if you want. And then from there, just go ahead and replace the head. There we go. And like I said, you got a more traditional looking Skeletor. I do want to bring in the original Skeletor though, so you can see the difference between the two. The coloring of the purple is a lot darker here in Keldor's release. Again, what you could always do is take this head sculpt off. In fact, instead of me just talking about it, I really don't like this head sculpt. While I've grown to like the Origins He-Man head sculpt, I really don't like Skeletor's. Still don't. Go ahead and pop that off. Like that. Take the one that comes included with Keldor, remove that, and then yes, in fact, you can put it onto regular Skeletor, regular Origins Skeletor. The problem with it, though, you can probably already see the problem, is the fact that the purple just doesn't jive. It doesn't match up. It's not the dark purple that we're getting here with this head sculpt, so the two really aren't going to work together. It's there if you want to, but again, I don't think it really works well with this particular body. You can also pop the head sculpt off. Looks like we're doing a lot of decapitation in this review. Take Battle Armor Skeletor, which, again, I like that head sculpt a lot more than the original one. Pop this one off, and you can replace it with the Keldor Skeletor head, which will probably involve me pushing it down just a little bit more. But you can really see, short of the color being darker, how this head sculpt already improves these two figures, this figure and the other figure, how it looks so much better with this head sculpt. Go ahead one last time, just making sure I put everything back where I left it because I don't want these figures walking around without any heads. Put that back on. And we'll go ahead and put this back onto Keldor's body. I think really in a case like this, it's such a valid argument to make to pick up more than one of these sets. Because especially just for Keldor alone, I don't think I'm going to be doing much swapping around of Origins Kronos with the Trapjaw that I had already. Because of course the bodies are so different. But definitely in a case like this with the Keldor figure, I really would want to be picking up more than one of these sets. So then I could have one displayed like Skeletor like this, and then I can have the other one displayed like Keldor. Let's just put the figure down here for 1 second. Get him to stand here. Because while he does have the Skeletor head sculpt, I want to do a couple of other comparisons. For this, of course, it will involve me having to put the head back onto the original Skeletor. There we go, a little satisfying snap. And I want to show you the difference between the Skeletor that has, well, the Keldor Skeletor and the regular Skeletor. Again, the colors of the purple, it's night and day. The darker purple works so much nicer with Skeletor. It's not as traditional Skeletor, but I've got to say, like, the colors look so much more richer on the Keldor body. The other thing that also gets changed here, as you can see, the bat emblem there molded to the crest, like the molded area of his armor piece, gets also some additional green that wasn't on the original. If that doesn't bother you at all, yeah, then absolutely, I think this is a superior looking Skeletor. Looking at his lower half, the skirting seems to be the same, but where changes again are made is when we're looking at his footwear. The, quote, monster feet that would be so traditional on Skeletor isn't obviously here on the Keldor release, because of course he's got to have footwear based on him looking more like Keldor. If you don't mind, again, the idea that Skeletor doesn't have monster feet, that's much better of a Skeletor if you ask me. So looking at now the rest of Keldor here with the Skeletor head sculpt in place, boy, that's such a great looking head. Unfortunately, this particular figure, as you can see, the little sides of his armor pieces have been curled up. I can't imagine that that would be the case on every single Keldor that has been released, but if you have picked up this figure for yourself, let me know if you've had similar warping here on the side fins of his armor. I could probably just take a hairdryer, heat that up. In fact, I probably will take a hairdryer, heat that up, and see if I can bend that back into place. Just a shame it curls up like this. Now, something, again, I mentioned with this version of Keldor is that he doesn't have the fins on the sides of his arms. It probably, again, would make most sense to bring in the original Skeletor so you can see the fins are gone, and Keldor's arms instead have the little gauntlet bracelets. So there are some changes that are made there as well. The plastic doesn't look that much different. In fact, I maybe would say, if anything, Keldor's body is a little more shinier, but it seems to be the same blue that they've used for the other Skeletor as well. I really don't love that dark purple. Boy, that's ever looked great on this figure. Of course, the rest of the figure's body build is exactly the same as all the other Master Universe figures, short of just a few little things that they've changed and tweaked from this Keldor to the other Skeletor. There's not much that has really changed. I have a little bit of scuffing here. A little line of paint, it seems, that actually has been on the torso of Skeletor here. Again, if I really wanted to, if it bothered me all that much, I could probably just take like rubbing alcohol, like 91% alcohol, and just see if I can maybe take that off. I would imagine it's probably paint and should come off pretty easy against that plastic. I don't know if I want to do that or not. Anyways, for the figure's articulation, let's just bring his arm down because it looks a little awkward. His arm's been up this whole time. For his articulation with the Skeletor head, mind you, his head rotates all the way around. It hinges up, it hinges down, and it rocks back and forth. As for the arms, again, similar to the Kronis we looked at before, you can get a full 90-degree angle bend. You can move those forward and back, fine and good. Elbow, swivel, hand, swivel, and hinge as well. Swivel in the waist, same on the legs, same as the Kronis, same as all the other Master Universe Origins figures. And again, you can move those legs back and forth this way. Also has foot articulation, ankle articulation. So again, all the same stuff as we got before. And again, and really, if you want to, bringing back in the cape that we really didn't spend nearly enough time talking about. It's a soft plastic material. If you wanted to, go ahead and just pop the head off. There we go. Put the cape back on. If you want to give him sort of a Lord Skeletor look, why not? The beauty of these, the fact that you can mix and match them, you can get exactly the look of Skeletor that you really do want. So if you want to give him a cape, by all means, give Skeletor a cape. Last, and certainly not least, getting his feet to straighten up here so we can actually put the figure right in the middle here, bring his head up a little bit. Let's again bring in those other Skeletors for a couple of more comparisons. The original Skeletor, and of course, can't overlook Battle Armor Skeletor. I just love Battle Armor Skeletor. Just goes to show again what they're doing differently by using the same body, just tweaking a few things. The forearms, of course, are different from the two Skeletors on either side to the Keldor body in the middle, and also darkening the coloring of the purple, I think gives you a superior looking Skeletor. If you can overlook the fact it does have the little bat crest painted in green, this might actually be the way I'm going to display Skeletor. And of course, I can, again, take this head sculpt off in the middle and replace it, I think, with the origin Skeletor. But because the purples aren't really going to jive like that, I think I might find myself trying to source out a second set of the Rise of Evil. So I can have Keldor, at least here, displayed in his look of Keldor with the regular human face. And then I can have him one displayed with the Skeletor look that we're looking at right now. Definitely by far the best Skeletor we've gotten from this line. Even though I know the sell of this set was originally the fact that we were finally getting ourselves an Origins-looking Keldor and an original Origins-looking Kronis, the way that Skeletor and Trapjaw originally started, I think I actually spent more time in this review gushing over the alternate Skeletor head sculpt than I did actually talking about how much I liked that we were getting a Keldor. Isn't that rather interesting? I think most people are probably going to be picking up this set with the idea, yeah, I can finally get myself a Keldor on display, and here I am thinking, wow, I really don't even want to pop this Skeletor head sculpt off and put back the Keldor head. Unfortunately, because they used a darker purple plastic, not only for the hood that goes over top of Skeletor's face, but again, the rest of his armor, it's not simple just to take off the Skeletor's head sculpt. I used my mouth for that sound effect, by the way, and replace it with the very poor-looking origin Skeletor head that we first got. You can't do that because the purple isn't just going to jive with the rest of his armor. So now I'm sort of torn. I might have to maybe see if I can pick up another set of these, just so I can display one with the Keldor head, because again, that's probably what they originally planned this set being the marketing sell for, and probably then display the other one looking like Skeletor, just taking the cape off, and having a much better looking Skeletor on display than that original origin Skeletor. Nothing really wrong with that original origin Skeletor, but when you compare that head sculpt to this one right here, I feel like it's night and day. This one is so much better. Now, a big thank you, super thank you to viewer Cornelius McGillicuddy, who took the time not only to pick up a second one of these, but to send it my way so we could actually have a look at it in this review. Thank you very much, Cornelius. You really came through, because this was a set, sadly, like, it seems like the long story goes with Canada, we just can't seem to get it. We can't get anything thrown our way when it comes to these things actually hitting store shelves. We still don't have this set in Canadian stores. Will it eventually pop up? Who knows? Who has any idea whatsoever? Even if I've had a crystal ball, I think the crystal ball would just say, the answer would give me, just don't even bother. Don't even bother asking. If this has anything to do with Masters of the Universe, don't even bother asking. Ask instead if it's going to be sunny outside. Don't ask me about Masters of the Universe Origins. Have you picked up this set for yourself? And if you have, which head sculpt are you going to use? And I'm more or less posing a question towards Keldor, because Kronis, I mean, I don't think many people are going to be popping the head off of Kronis's head and off of his body and replacing it with Trapjaw. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But when it comes to Keldor, which are you more likely to display him as? Keldor or as Skeletor? Let me know down below in the comment section. If you guys are also new to this channel, enjoying all the content you're seeing, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. You can as well turn on the bell notification. You can as well make sure you're coming back to this channel, because we will be looking at more Masters of the Universe Origins figures. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.